You know, one of the biggest shifts a woman can make in her love life, the kind that completely changes how men treat her, is when she stops trying to be the one chasing love and starts becoming the one who attracts it. It's not just about playing hard to get or pretending you don't care. No, this is something far more powerful and far more authentic. It's about becoming the flame, not the moth. Here's what I mean by that. When you chase a guy, texting him constantly, rearranging your plans to see him, wondering where you stand all the time, you're stepping into the role of the pursuer. You're orbiting him. And you may think you're just showing effort, being sweet, or proving how much you care. But to him, it doesn't feel like love. It feels like need. And people don't crave what feels needy. They crave what feels alive, what feels confident, what feels like it doesn't need them in order to be whole. Think about fire for a second. Fire doesn't chase. Fire just is. And what does everything else do? It gets drawn in. That's the energy I want you to have, not because you're pretending to be detached or mysterious, but because you're genuinely fulfilled, lit up, and rooted in your own worth. Now, I know what some people are thinking right now, but if I don't reach out, he might forget about me. If I don't try, I might lose my chance. But the moment you start showing up from that place of fear, you've already lost your power. Because what you're really saying is, I don't believe I'm enough unless I remind him I'm here. And that mindset is exactly what makes someone forgettable. When you're the flame, you don't need to remind anyone of your worth. You live your life, you pursue your passions, you connect with people, you grow, you expand, you glow in your own orbit. And what happens is remarkable. He notices. He notices the shift. He sees that you're not sitting around waiting for him to decide you're worthy of love. You already know you are. And that energy is rare, it's magnetic. Here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Men always return to the woman who didn't need them, but genuinely enjoyed them. The one who wasn't begging to be chosen because she had already chosen herself. The one who could make space for someone in her life, but didn't lose herself to do it. And look, I get it. It's hard, especially when emotions are involved, especially when you like someone and you feel like there's potential. But potential doesn't equal partnership. Wanting someone doesn't mean they're the right one. And just because a man shows up with a little bit of effort here and there, doesn't mean you need to revolve your world around him. Instead, you become the flame by being the flame. You dive into the things that excite you. You build your confidence, not from compliments or attention, but from the way you show up for yourself every day, the way you hold your boundaries, the way you speak kindly to yourself, the way you don't settle for crumbs when you know you're worthy of the feast. You become irresistible when you realize that your happiness isn't waiting in someone else's hands. It's something you're already cultivating. You stop trying to earn love and instead you embody it. You are love. And the man who's worth your time, he sees that. He feels that. And trust me, he comes back. Not because you manipulated him into returning, but because he realizes he's missing something real. You see, the woman who's whole in herself doesn't chase because she knows what she brings to the table. She doesn't need to prove anything. Her presence speaks louder than any text message. Her energy lingers in a man's mind long after the conversation ends. Why? Because she's not giving him a performance. She's giving him her truth, and truth is unforgettable. So many people are looking for tricks, tactics, quick fixes to get someone back. But the real secret is this: become someone they can't forget. Not because you were the loudest or the most available, but because you were the most authentic, the most self-assured, the most at peace with yourself. That's the energy that leaves a mark. That's what a man remembers when he's out there meeting other people and suddenly realizes, no one's making me feel the way she did. And it's not because you bent over backwards or put yourself last. It's because you were you, fully and completely. So don't become the moth desperately drawn to something outside of yourself. Be the flame. Be the one who glows so bright that the right person can't help but be drawn in, not because you chased, but because you were already lit from within. He doesn't come back for the woman who needed him. He comes back for the woman who never stopped being herself. You know, one of the most powerful things you can ever do in a relationship is respect yourself enough to walk away. Let me explain what I mean, because this is where most people get it wrong. When a guy starts to pull away, when he gets distant, doesn't reply as fast, or suddenly becomes less available, our instincts kick in. And those instincts scream, do something, fix it, close the gap. But what do we usually do? We start over-investing, we text more, we ask if everything's okay. We chase, not because we're desperate, but because we want to keep that connection alive. We want to know we still matter. But here's the truth. If you try to glue something together while it's cracking, all you do is smear the damage. A high-value woman understands that her silence can speak volumes. She doesn't chase validation. She doesn't beg someone to stay. She doesn't sell herself on someone's potential. She observes the reality in front of her and responds with graceful distance. That's powerful, because silence, when it comes from a place of confidence, can be louder than any words you say. And I want to be very clear. Walking away doesn't always mean slamming the door or making a dramatic exit. Sometimes it's as subtle as not reaching out first anymore. It's removing yourself from a situation where you're being emotionally breadcrumbed. It's choosing not to play the role of a convenience when someone treats you like an option. You see, most people are terrified of space in a relationship. They think, if I give him space, he'll forget me. He'll move on. I'll lose him. But what they don't realize is that space is exactly what shows you who wants to come closer. If he pulls away and you try to chase, you confirm that he can lose interest and still have you waiting. But if he pulls away and you step back too, now he has to confront something far more unsettling. The possibility that he could actually lose you. And trust me, that changes everything. You want to be the kind of person someone has to step up to be with, not someone who's always there, no matter how little they give. That's not love, that's emotional charity. And charity has no place in attraction. There's a difference between being emotionally available and being emotionally accessible on demand. A high-value woman is emotionally available. She's open, she's kind, she's warm, but she's not waiting around for someone to decide they're ready. She's not holding her breath for a man to come to his senses. She knows her worth. And because she knows her worth, she understands this one thing: not everyone deserves a front row seat to your life. Now, does it hurt to walk away from someone you care about? Of course. You're human. You're allowed to feel it. But you have to ask yourself, what hurts more? Losing someone who didn't value you, or losing yourself trying to make them value you? Because when you try to force something that isn't being reciprocated, you're the one making the emotional investment. You're the one constantly proving your value instead of letting it be recognized naturally. And every time you overextend for someone who isn't meeting you halfway, you shrink a little bit. You chip away at your confidence. You start questioning yourself. Was I too much? Not enough? Should I have waited longer? But the truth is, if someone can only value you when you're bending over backward, that's not a relationship. It's a transaction. It's built on your effort, your chasing, your fear of losing them. And that's not the foundation you want to build anything real on. What you really want is mutual energy, mutual pursuit, two people choosing each other, not one person convincing the other to stay. And sometimes the only way to find out if it's mutual is to let go. To stop doing all the work, to let the space speak for itself. Because when you stop chasing, two things happen. Either they realize what they're about to lose and step up, or they keep walking. And thank God they did, because now you're free to attract someone who will actually show up. Don't confuse someone's temporary attention with true commitment. Don't let chemistry trick you into thinking you should tolerate inconsistency. And don't mistake familiarity for love. Just because you shared something meaningful with someone doesn't mean you owe them your peace, your time, or your self-worth. Respect is a mirror. The way you treat yourself teaches others how to treat you. If you don't value your time, your energy, your standards, why would they? If you accept breadcrumbs, that's all they'll ever give you. But if you show that you're willing to walk away from anything that doesn't align with your worth, that's when people either rise to meet you or fall away. And either outcome is a win. Because the goal isn't to make someone return. The goal is to be in such alignment with who you are, what you want, and what you deserve that only the right ones can find their way back, and only they stay. The ones who belong in your life don't need convincing. They recognize your value without you having to prove it. When we talk about making a man come back, most people jump to tactics. What to text, how long to wait, how to play it cool. But none of that matters if you're not unforgettable. And that's what I want to talk about. If you want him to come back, really come back, not just for a night, but with genuine intent, you need to show that you're not easily replaceable. Think about the relationships that have left a mark on you. It wasn't just because of how attractive that person was or how charming they could be in the moment. It was the way they made you feel. The uniqueness of your connection, the value they added to your life without forcing it. That's what stays with you. That's what lingers in your thoughts when you're lying in bed at night wondering if you made a mistake by walking away. Men are no different. A guy might pull away for any number of reasons. Timing, distractions, fear of intimacy, you name it. But the one thing that always draws him back is the realization that you brought something rare to the table. Something that isn't just around every corner. Most people are forgettable because they're trying to fit into someone else's ideal instead of being their ideal self. They shapeshift, they play roles, they try to be agreeable all the time. But the irony is, the more you try to be liked, the easier it is to forget you. You blend in. You become a highlight reel of someone else's preferences, not a full, authentic, emotionally dynamic person. You want to be unforgettable? Start by owning your quirks. Own the parts of yourself you usually hide on a first date. Be honest about your standards. Share your passions, even if they're not cool, especially if they're not cool. Why? Because vulnerability is memorable. Realness cuts through the noise. When a man meets a woman who is unapologetically herself, it stays with him. He may not understand why at first, but he feels it. You know what else makes you unforgettable? The ability to make a man feel seen. And I'm not talking about being a people pleaser or a therapist. I mean really seeing him, noticing the things others don't. A thoughtful question, a moment where you acknowledge something beyond the surface. That tiny comment he made about his relationship with his dad that you remembered 3 weeks later, that stuff sticks. That's not about manipulation, it's about presence. People return to where they felt a genuine connection, not a performance, not a perfectly curated dating persona, but something honest and intimate. The way you laughed at something completely stupid and didn't try to look cute while doing it. The way you called him out when he said something that didn't align with his values. The way you made him think differently about something because you offered a perspective he hadn't considered. Here's the catch. You can't fake this. You can't act unforgettable to get someone back. You become unforgettable by being a fully expressed version of yourself, not a reaction to someone else's attention. And let's not pretend this is easy, especially when you really like someone. It's tempting to make yourself smaller to keep them, to avoid saying something that might rock the boat, to pretend you're cool with something that actually hurt you. But in doing that, you erase the exact things that make you stand out. You dull your edge. And eventually, if they leave, you're left wondering, why didn't they come back? When the truth is, they never met you. They met the version of you that thought being agreeable would make them stay. Don't be agreeable. Be impactful. Be kind but honest. Be warm but grounded. Let your standards speak for themselves. Let your joy, your humor, your curiosity show up in every conversation. Don't be afraid to challenge someone in a loving way when they need it, because the people we remember are the ones who didn't just go along with everything. They're the ones who made us stop and think, who inspired us, who lit something up in us. When a guy walks away and doesn't feel any of that, when he just remembers comfort, convenience, predictability, He may never think twice. But when he walks away and starts to miss the fire, the conversations that left a mark, the way you carried yourself with grace but never sacrificed your truth, that's when he starts thinking, did I mess that up? And if he does come back and you still want him, you'll have the upper hand because you didn't chase, you didn't beg, and you didn't change. You stood tall in your worth and let your absence speak louder than any words ever could. Make no mistake, being unforgettable isn't about being dramatic or trying to leave a trail of emotional chaos behind you. That's not power, that's insecurity. Real power is when someone walks away thinking, there's just something about her I can't replace. And the truth is, that something wasn't anything you did for him, it was everything you are, with or without him. So if you want to be the woman he returns to, don't try to be better than the others. Be different. Be real. And most of all, be someone whose presence lingers long after you've left the room. That's when he realizes what he lost. And that's when he comes back. You know what most women don't realize? That the moment you start treating yourself like a backup plan, you become one in someone else's life. And I know how tempting it is to wait, to hope, to cling to the idea that if you just hang in there, he'll come around, that maybe he's just confused, that maybe if you're patient enough or understanding enough, he'll suddenly see your worth and decide you're the one. But let me tell you something that's going to sting a little. Men don't come back to comfort. They come back to clarity. They come back to the woman who wasn't afraid to walk away when he was unsure. That's the woman he remembers. When you act like someone who's waiting in the wings, who's always available, who's ready to accept breadcrumbs, he doesn't feel urgency. There's no need to act, no reason to make a decision, because he knows you'll still be there, even if he disappears for a few days, even if he ghosts your texts, even if he can't give you a straight answer about what he wants. But when you become the woman who chooses herself, who doesn't flinch when he pulls away, who doesn't chase after his mixed signals, something shifts. You become unforgettable because now you're not feeding into his avoidance. You're not enabling his indecision. You're drawing a line in the sand, not with drama, not with ultimatums, but with quiet, unshakable certainty. And men notice that. They may not say it out loud, but they feel it. It's in the way you stop over-explaining. It's in the way you stop texting just to check in. It's in the way you reclaim your energy and stop revolving your world around someone who isn't choosing you fully. That's not you being cold. That's you showing strength. That's you saying, I'm not here to be someone's maybe. I'm here for a hell yes. Let's be honest. Some guys only wake up when they lose access to you, when they realize the vibe has changed, when the woman who once gave everything freely has now pulled back. Not to punish, but because she's done. And the second they feel that shift in power, when they're no longer in control of the dynamic, something triggers inside of them. It's the moment they realize, wait, did I just lose something real? But you don't get to that moment by playing games. You don't get there by posting thirst traps or trying to make him jealous or pretending you're fine when you're breaking inside. You get there by genuinely reclaiming your self-respect, by deciding that if someone isn't showing up consistently, they're not aligned with the relationship you're building. And you walk, not because you don't care, but because you care deeply about yourself. It's scary, I know, especially when your heart's invested, especially when you think he just needs time. But here's the truth. Time doesn't fix confusion. Standards do. Boundaries do. Self-worth does. When a man sees that your love is not for sale, that it's not something he can come back to whenever it's convenient, he starts treating it differently. You stop being a soft place to land when he's bored or lonely or emotionally unavailable. You become the one that got away because you had the courage to not settle for less than you deserved. And that memory, that respect, that's what makes him come back, not the version of you who waited around, the version of you who evolved in his absence. See, the woman who triggers a man's transformation isn't the one who stays and tolerates. It's the one who says, I'm not angry, I'm not bitter, but I'm done accepting confusion when I'm offering clarity. That energy is powerful. That energy creates change. You become the standard, the new benchmark. And suddenly, he finds himself measuring every woman he meets against the one who walked away with dignity, the one who didn't flinch when he tested her limits, the one who said, "I'd rather be alone than question my worth." And here's the twist. By the time he realizes it, you've already outgrown the version of yourself who needed him to choose you, because now you've become the woman who chooses herself first. And that's the energy men return to, not because they're entitled to a second chance, but because they finally see what they missed. Don't be the backup plan, be the breakthrough. The woman who disrupted his pattern, who broke the cycle, who showed him without saying a word that love without consistency, effort, and presence isn't love at all. Be the reason he changes, not because you begged him to, but because you walked away with your head high and never looked back. You know, one of the most underrated things in dating and in life is mystery. Yacht. And no, I don't mean playing mind games or being manipulative. I mean the kind of mystery that naturally exists when someone has a rich inner world that they don't feel the need to display all at once. Think about it. How many times have you been on a date or met someone new, and within the first hour, you knew everything about them? Their childhood wounds, their toxic ex, their 5-year plan, their biggest fears. There's no pacing, no rhythm, just information overload. And sure, it might feel like you're connecting, but too much, too soon often has the opposite effect. It overwhelms, and more importantly, it removes any sense of discovery. What makes someone compelling isn't how much they share, it's what they hold back with confidence. When you overshare early on, what you're unconsciously saying is, please like me, please accept me. I want to prove I'm worthy by giving you everything up front. That energy, it doesn't feel strong. It feels anxious. And trust me, that anxiety doesn't inspire closeness. It triggers retreat. A man starts to pull back, not because you're not interesting, but because there's no longer anything to lean into. He already has the full picture. He knows where the story starts and where it ends. And that kills attraction faster than anything. Real connection is like a book. You want to turn the page, because each chapter leaves you curious. And if you give away the ending on page 2, what's left? What's the reason to stay invested? So when I say mystery is power, I'm really saying have enough self-worth to know that your story doesn't have to be poured out to be powerful. You're not auditioning. You're already enough. The right person will earn their way into knowing the deeper parts of you, not get it all just because they showed up. This doesn't mean being cold or distant. In fact, the most attractive people are warm, engaging, and open, but they're measured. They give in layers. They understand the difference between being vulnerable and being emotionally naked too early. Vulnerability is a gift, not a transaction. When you meet someone, let them see the highlights, the colors of your life, but don't hand them the blueprint of your soul right away. Let them discover it with time, with patience, with effort. One of the biggest traps people fall into, especially when they really like someone, is this belief that being completely transparent will make that person feel closer. So they start talking about their past traumas, failed relationships, childhood issues, insecurity. You want to bond. But true intimacy isn't created by dumping your emotional weight on someone. It's built through shared experience, trust, and mutual curiosity. It's a dance, not a download. Sometimes we overshare because we want control. Think about it. If I tell you everything about me, then I control how you see me. I shape the narrative. But real power is being okay with not being fully understood right away. Real power is knowing that you're worth figuring out. And the people who are worth your time, they'll want to. They'll be curious. They'll keep showing up because there's more to uncover. Not because you made everything available from day one. This also applies when you're trying to get someone back. You think if you just open up more, if you just tell them how much you miss them or how deeply you feel, they'll come back. But often what actually draws them back is the feeling that they want to come towards you, not because you handed it all over on a silver platter, but because they miss discovering you. They miss the subtle, powerful way you made them feel intrigued. And that happens when you've shown just enough to leave an imprint, but held back enough that they're still wondering about you. There's a quiet confidence in not rushing the reveal. It's like saying, I'm in no hurry to be understood. I'm in no hurry to be validated. I know who I am, and I'm not afraid to let that unfold naturally. That energy, that's magnetic. That's what sticks in someone's mind long after the conversation ends. That's what has them replaying your words, wondering about your world, thinking, I want to know more. So ask yourself, am I letting someone earn their place in my emotional life? Or am I handing over VIP access to someone who hasn't even bought a ticket to the show? Because when a man has to earn that access, he values it more, he respects it more, he feels more. That's how real desire builds, not from giving everything away, but from creating space for something to grow. Let the connection unfold, let the mystery breathe, let your story reveal itself. Not because you're desperate to be known, but because you're open to being discovered. And trust me, he will return to that every time. You know what's more attractive than looks or style or even confidence? Emotional maturity. Yeah, I know. That doesn't sound sexy right away. But trust me, it's the quiet power that pulls someone in and keeps them coming back long after the butterflies fade. Because here's what people often miss. In a world full of surface-level attraction, what truly separates one person from another, what makes someone unforgettable, is how you handle yourself emotionally. When you're the person who stays grounded in chaos, who knows how to communicate without exploding, who doesn't play games just to get a reaction. That's rare, and rare is magnetic. So many people get caught in this cycle. A man pulls away, and suddenly everything becomes a reaction. Anxiety kicks in, the overthinking starts, the emotional roller coaster takes off. The texts get longer, more frequent, more desperate. You start trying to convince him, remind him, prove to him what he's missing. And the irony? Every time you try to force someone to see your worth, you're unintentionally showing them that you've forgotten it yourself. But emotional maturity flips that script. Instead of spiraling, you pause, you breathe, you assess. You ask yourself, what do I want? Not how do I make him come back? You see, a mature woman doesn't beg for breadcrumbs. She doesn't panic when a man needs space. She doesn't chase clarity from someone who's only offering confusion. Why? Because she knows her value doesn't decrease based on someone else's inability to see it in the moment. And that confidence, it's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it hits hard because it's real. Imagine this, a guy pulls away, maybe he's unsure, maybe he's distracted, or maybe he's testing the waters elsewhere. What happens when you don't react emotionally? When you don't flood his inbox or demand explanations? When instead you let him go with peace, not punishment? It throws him off. He expects chaos. He expects the drama, the meltdown, the emotional negotiation. And instead, you hand him silence and self-respect. That silence, that's the loudest message you could ever send. He starts thinking, not because you guilted him, not because you threatened to move on, but because your energy tells him you're free to go, but not everyone gets to come back. And it's not about being cold or detached. Emotional maturity doesn't mean you don't feel. You do, deeply. But you've learned how to hold space for your emotions without letting them control your actions. You've learned how to be vulnerable without being reckless. That's strength. Because when you can say, this hurt, but I'm not going to chase validation from the very person who caused the hurt, that's next level self-love. That's you showing up for yourself even when someone else didn't. And that energy, that's what sticks in someone's mind. A man remembers the woman who didn't lose herself trying to keep him. He remembers the one who stayed kind even while choosing herself. He remembers the woman who could say, I miss you, without saying, I need you to fix me. That level of calm, of emotional clarity, it stands out, especially in a world full of noise and reaction. Think about it. We live in a time where relationships often play out like emotional chess matches. Who texts first? Who cares more? Who backs off to gain leverage? It's exhausting. And honestly, it's childish. The moment you decide to rise above that, to stop playing and start being, everything changes. You stop attracting temporary attention and start commanding lasting respect. Emotional maturity also means recognizing that not every man who walks away is meant to return, and that's okay. You don't cling to someone just because there's history. You don't wait for potential to turn into consistency. You stop romanticizing someone's possibility and start honoring your reality. And in that clarity, something powerful happens. The men who are capable, the ones who do value emotional depth and peace and growth, they start noticing you. They feel your energy in the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way you choose. You're not trying to win someone over. You are the win. And the men who weren't ready, who took you for granted, who thought you'd always be there, always waiting, always available the second they felt lonely again, they feel the shift. They sense that the door they once left open might not still be swinging. And that's when they return. Not because you manipulated them, not because you tricked them into missing you, but because your silence, your peace, your refusal to lower your standard, that haunted them. They remember how it felt to be around you. They remember the calm you brought into chaos. They remember the way you held them accountable without attacking them. And they realize that wasn't ordinary. That was rare. That was real. But here's the thing. Emotional maturity doesn't just get them to return. It puts you in a place where you're no longer desperate for it. You don't just want a man to come back. You want him to show up differently. And if he doesn't, you're strong enough to keep walking. You become the woman who knows that peace is better than potential, that clarity is better than chemistry, that self-respect is better than second chances with the wrong person. And that woman, she's unforgettable. Because when you carry yourself like that, when your actions reflect emotional stability and strength, you don't chase men. They find their way back to you every single time.